In today's video, we're checking out two high gain pedals, the first of which might be the best value Marshall in a box you're going to find. This is the Golden Legacy from Giga Gain. This will do anything from a 1960s Marshall all the way through to higher gain hot rodded Marshall amps, and stay tuned for that, you're about to hear it. I've also got the Gainster, which is both a preamp pedal and a high gain distortion. It can be used as either, so you can run it into the front of your amplifier or also into the effects return, allowing you to use this as your amplifier's tone. In the jam track coming up, you'll be hearing both of these just going directly into my Blues Deluxe. Today's video will focus on these two, but I've already reviewed three prior to this. If you missed the first video in this series, I'll link it up here. A massive thanks to Giga Gain for sending these out to the channel and also sponsoring this series of videos. If you want to take a look at them, I'll link them in the description. Let me give you a quick rundown of both of these pedals, starting with the Gainster. Now, the Gainster is a unique sort of pedal. It can be used as a high gain preamp into the effects loop or return of your amplifier, or you can run it as a standalone distortion pedal. So it's very versatile. You get a two-way toggle switch in the center, which changes the voicing. It will change the high-end response and it will also change the gain structure. So stay tuned for that. We get a 3-band EQ across the top, a volume control, and a gain control. And again, if you're looking for a high gain preamp or distortion pedal, this thing absolutely wallops the front end. The Golden Legacy is again a Marshall in a box. With the toggle switch in the center in the vintage position, it's very reminiscent of like amps from the 60s, like the JTMs and all that kind of stuff. If you're a fan of that, just flick that toggle switch up and the high end response and the way it feels will respond vastly different to how it does in the modern position, which is absolutely hot rodded. It's like a JCM 800 and more. So if you're looking for that sound, it's got that as well. I've tested so many Marshall in a box pedals, and this could be interchanged with any of the more expensive ones I've tested. It really does nail that sound. Now, I gave you a full rundown on the prior video about these, but if you did miss that, I'll just give you a quick overview. We've got our on-off switch here, and the reason there's an on-off switch is inside of the pedal. In the secret compartment, we've got our battery. That's right, you can buy an optional rechargeable 9-volt battery, which is one of the smartest things I've seen. A rechargeable battery like that. It's got a USB-C port on there. Fantastic. All the pedals in this range can run on 9-volt DC power, and they've got top-mounted jacks, which means if you want to plonk them on a pedal board, it makes connecting them a whole lot easier. Giga Gain also sell patch cables and conventional guitar cables, and I'll be using their patch cable for these two in this video. This is the second of 3 videos I'm going to be putting together covering all of their effects. If you missed the initial one, I'll link it up here. You can watch it after this one. But I think you're going to be in for a surprise given that these are like between 65 and about $100 US. I think it's excellent value. Let's get into it. All right, let's kick it off. I'm going to be playing my Tokai Love Rock into my Fender Blues Deluxe. We've got the Blues Deluxe dead clean. It's mic'd up with 2 microphones, so real amp in the room. This is my clean tone. It's just borderline over the edge of breakup, but not quite. We're going to start with the Golden Legacy over here on the vintage setting. So this is going to give you a more 1960s kind of Marshall sound. As you can see, the EQ is basically straight up and down, and we've got the gain at about 1 or 2 o'clock. Let's give this a go. Yeah. So as you can hear, just switching it down to modern, it gives you a little bit more attitude, and also it's a brighter sound. The vintage Marshall amps have like a softer top end once you sort of crank them up, and it's really doing a great job. I'm going to crank up the gain a little bit. I'm also going to add a little bit more treble, back the bass off, and a little bit more mids. I'll play some riff stuff, and then we'll go over to the vintage side as well. So you get a lot out of it. Up next, I want to show you how dynamic this pedal is by using your volume control. Now, just to let you know though, I have had to turn the volume most of the way down on my guitar, but it cleans up beautifully. Just as a point of difference, this is with the volume all the way up, with the pedal off. And pedal back on. The sustain is pretty wild. Let's take a look at the gain control in conjunction with the vintage channel, and this will give you some nice off-clean sort of bluesy tones. Sort of got that sort of 60s blues thing. All right, let's crank it up to midday. Beautiful. And now with it cranked. Man, adjusting the mid-frequency control really makes a difference, and I'll show you that in a moment. I'll just pop it back. Now let's take a look at the gain control on the modern setting, and this can get pretty crazy. Here we go. The sustain's cool. Well, we do get a 3-band EQ. If you're more partial to the scooped mid-range sound, all you have to do is move the mid control back. So let's take a listen to this on the modern sound. I'm not much of a metal player, but you get the point. If you're into that scooped mid sound, it's pretty easy to dial in. Over to the Gainster. Now you can run this into the effects return on your amplifier if you want to use it as a dedicated preamp pedal, but it's also fine to use it directly into the front end, which is what you're about to hear. Now this has so much attitude. I've got the gain down. We're on the first channel, channel 1, and yeah, it is ball terror. This is the clean tone. All right, here we go. Yeah, so with the toggle switch down, you're getting a much more modern sound. It's brighter, it's got more gain, it's clearer, it's just got a whole different kind of tonality. So with the toggle switch in the out position, it sounds like it's doing a very similar thing to the Golden Legacy, where you're getting that vintage voicing, and then you're just getting like a balls to the wall high gain tone. That's crazy. Let's take a look at the mid-frequency sweep on the Gainster. Man, so just sitting here in the room listening to the the amp behind me, one of the fun things about the mid-frequency control is it's very musical as you bring it back to about 9 o'clock. It actually is still feels really great to play. That's the easiest way of saying it. Whereas if you push it too far forward, it doesn't sound as good to my ear with this one. So I would sort of say the sweet spot with this is anywhere between like 9 o'clock and 1 o'clock if you're playing a Fender amp. If you're playing something else, it could be vastly different. But I also experimented around with the EQ as well, and just listening again to both channels. Channel 2 is my favorite. It just gives you more clarity, and the modern sound is a little bit nicer to my ear. But if you like that sort of soft top end, then channel 1's definitely nailed that vintage sound. No questions about it. All right, let's wrap this up. I'm going to give you some final thoughts here. So if it wasn't blatantly obvious, I had a blast playing with these two. Just before filming this, I actually filmed the prior video that was up last week, shooting with the Blues Breaker, the Tube Screamer, and the Clean Boost. And man, the gain out of these is crazy. So if you're looking for a Marshall in a box that's really great value, this one right here might be one of the best of the year when it comes to value for money, build quality, and just tones. It really nails the Marshall sound. I've reviewed plenty of Marshall amps. I've owned a few as well. I still have one back here, which is the DSL-40. And this really is able to replicate the classic tones all the way back to the 60s, all the way through to some of those 2000s amps, which, you know, have a lot of gain. So yeah, it's great. And I love its simplicity as well. It's just got a two-way toggle switch. You can pick your favorite sound and you're in business. Now, the Gainster was the surprise of the two. I didn't really know what to expect of this. And being that it can be used as a preamp pedal or you can just use it as a distortion, man, it absolutely slayed. This thing has gained for days. Now, this is probably a little too high gain for what I would usually play, but if you're into metal or you're into some of the sort of 80s stuff, you could dial in a sound out of this, no problems at all, thanks to the mid-frequency scoop. It really is very musical, and if you like to get that sort of scooped mid-range for layering up tracks, or if you're a rhythm guitarist predominantly, it really does sound good. 3-band EQ across the board on both of these is very usable. So I would have no problems recommending these if you're into higher gain tones, or of course with the Golden Legacy, if you want to play with lower gain, it will do it. I think the star of the show with the Gainster though is that, you know, it's pretty much high gain as soon as you click it on. And if you're looking for that, this is the way to go. I covered this on my last video that there's not a lot of compromises when it comes to build quality. The enclosures are great. The hidden battery compartment thing's really smart. The foot switch feels really heavy duty, and all the pots are great. There's no sort of wiggle or sort of nothing's loose or anything like that. Everything feels really high quality. So if you don't want to spend a fortune and you're looking to get the Marshall sound, or you're just looking for a high gain pedal like the Gainster, I love that name by the way. These are great. And again, they won't break the bank. Thanks for watching.